Alright, lads, so yesterday we did speak about the fact that Grimmjow might not be the next character releasing in Bleach Soul Resonance. So with that in mind, the big question is, who is going to release instead of Grimmjow? But in a very funny situation that we are currently in right now is that even though Grimmjow might not be next, we do now have his full kit leaked. Like always when it comes to leaked content like this, because we did see it very similar to Gin, this might not be the actual full details when the character does release, which could be a week from now, 3 weeks from now, for example. Whenever the character does release, there might be some things in the kit that will be different to what we are reading here, but for the most part, it might be similar enough. Very similar once more what happened to Gin, is that he did see some kit changes before he did release, but it was still very similar to what we had read before. And speaking of Gin, right, we're kind of in the same situation where Gin seemed to be the most ready character to release next. All his details were out and leaked, for example, but then Aizen came out instead. So we might be seeing the same thing here with Grimmjow, where everything looks ready, we have his full details here, but he's not going to be the next character. But with that said, I've already skimmed across what the character is going to offer. He looks pretty interesting, and I'm excited to see what our first Espada is going to offer in Soul Resonance. And before we even talk about the kit itself, the first thing that I've noticed right now, and I'm really not sure how I feel about it, so let me know in the comments how you like to feel about it, where this character doesn't seem to be transforming. He is going to instantly be in his resurrected state. So he's not base form. He's not starting out in base form, then transforms. He's just straight up in his resurrected state. Now, I think that's like the second best case scenario. Truth be told, maybe it is the best case scenario. I'm not sure how I feel about it, because I would like the base character to be somewhat present. You know, Grimmjow does do quite a lot of fights in base form. Can't really say the same thing for most of the other Espada, but the most important part here is that his resurrection is included, because it could have been worse. It could have been just base form, and then we have to wait for his resurrected form later on. That would have been boring. I wouldn't have minded a base that transforms into his resurrected form, and then also stayed in that form too, because we have some transforming characters in game right now. You know, the main one right now I would say is Choshu and also Ichigo, but their transformations are limited in the sense that, you know, Ichigo can only be in the visored form for 10 seconds. That makes sense. Toshiro can stay in his Bankai form as much as he wants, but he is encouraged to de-transform. So I was kind of curious to see what a transforming character would look like that would also just stay in the transformed state and then maybe get an extra, you know, unique animation when you use their ultimate while transformed. But from the looks of it right now, Grimmjow is just straight up in his resurrected form, and he's going to stay in that form. So I'm okay with it. I would like to see some base form Espadas be playable. Maybe they could be SRs in the future. Because, I don't know, if we get SSR base forms in the future, that's kind of boring. If they don't transform right, I don't know. Maybe SRs will be fine as is. With that said, maybe enough stalling. Let's talk about Grimmjow and also his kit. So first thing I want to look at is the passive effects, because that kind of explains what the character wants to do more than if we just look at the skills. So first up, let's have a look at his core passive, Lightning Flash. So holding the basic attack button consumes 50 spiritual pressure, causing Grimmjow to enter the Panther Dash state. So again, another sign that he is already going to be transformed, right? But when you do consume 50 spiritual pressure, it is going to enter a different type of form. Maybe his animations will change briefly. His posture might change, because in this case, releasing the button will cause Grimmjow to pounce, applying a wound on the enemies for 8 seconds. So interesting that this character can apply a wound. He's now going to be the third character in the game to have this, but he'll be the first non-Frost type character to have wound on his kit. Attacking enemies affected by wound accumulates rend value. When rend value reaches 100, Grimmjow deals abnormal damage equal to 300% of his attack power. After casting Rising Dragon, I guess we'll see what that is later in the video, consuming one Predation Beam allows a follow-up combat skill, in this case that's a technique, Demon Slash, 3000 worlds. Consuming an additional 2 Predation Beams allows a further follow-up with Azura Great Star Force. So we have a lot of terminology here we have to look at. So what I'm getting at here, based on the core passive alone, the character wants to get spiritual pressure. Once you have 50, you can hold down the basic attack button. You will then enter the Panther state, where you can then pounce on the enemies, which will allow you to apply wounds. And then when you attack enemies that are inflicted by wounds, you're then going to be building up the rend value, where then you deal more damage. And then after casting a certain skill, Rising Dragon, wherever that might potentially be, you're going to get another effect, Predation Beam, which is going to allow for multiple follow-up attacks. So he seems to be quite an aggressive character that might have the opportunity to spam a lot of buttons back to back. Having a look at some of the other passives though, his enhanced passive number 1, Thunderous Might. After each release of the 6 hits of his basic attack, Grimmjow's damage against the target increases by 7.5% for 15 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So overall, more damage output for using your basic attack. That might be an additional, maybe his secondary way for him to deal damage. Right now, it might be based on his techniques, and then secondary effect would be the basic attacks. His second passive, Grimmjow's combat skill, in this case, that is his technique. The damage for that technique increases by 75%. And after releasing the second stage skill, Turnaround Strike, he also then does gain 1 Predation Beam. His third passive, Grimmjow's efficiency in applying rend value is increased by 37%. So I think the standard one here is going to be the second one. I mean, his first passive is also really good for just increasing his damage output by using your basic attack. You want to do that right to gain spiritual pressure. But overall, 75% more damage on a technique and then potentially getting more Predation Beam so you can activate his follow-up skills does sound pretty good. So with that said, now let's have a look at his actual basic attack. So we have Razor Claws. So Grimmjow attacks with his claws. Again, he is transformed here, dealing a total of 385% of his attack power in 6 consecutive hits to the enemy, and accumulating his own spiritual pressure. Seems simple enough. His sub-skill 1. So this is specifically while you are in the Panther state. Grimmjow will leap in the air, and after a brief charge, slams down on the target, dealing 160% of his attack power. So it seems when you are in your Panther state, you are dealing less damage, but you are going to have the benefits in this case of applying wound right. And this is going to be the pounce attack that was mentioned earlier in his core passive. And then his second sub-skill, Rising Dragon, after casting Pounce, tap the basic attack. So in this case, you're actually not dealing less damage. You're doing 160, then you're doing an extra 240. So in this case, Grimmjow swiftly moves to the target and stomps down, dealing 240% total attack power, gaining 1 Predation Beam. So in this case, you're actually dealing a little bit more damage compared to his basic attack, 385% versus basically 400%, but you're also getting the benefit of gaining 1 Predation Beam. His technique, just simple, press the button. Grimmjow launches 2 consecutive attacks on the enemy using blades on his legs. That's kind of cool. Is it going to be the spin? It might be the spin, dealing 120% of his attack, and when released at the right moment, it can negate a monster's attack, triggering a clash effect. That's kind of cool. We do see something like that with Aizen, where again he has a technique. The attack itself never changes, but if you time it right when an enemy is attacking you, it will then deal more damage. I'm curious to see if there is going to be a special animation or an effect to notice that you've triggered the clash effects. Because with Aizen personally, I've never noticed when I do time it right. I just always do my rotation, and sometimes it will do a little bit more damage, sometimes it won't. It's not really that noticeable. Maybe, hopefully, it can be a bit more noticeable with Grimmjow because you are getting a clash effect. But after releasing the first stage of the combat skill, technique, tapping the skill again within a short time will trigger the second stage. And in this case, it is going to be the turnaround strike. Grimmjow uses Flash Step, in this case the needle, to close in and stomp on the target, then releases an attack with shurikens. Is that going to be the one move that he has on his arm, where like he can send out a projectile? That'd be kind of cool they do include that. They should, because it is part of his resurrection, right? And in this case, dealing 160% of his attack, and also accumulating 50 spiritual pressure. So pretty cool that he can gain spiritual pressure from his techniques. A pretty decent amount of it too. So from the looks of it, no matter what happens, when you do use your skill, your technique, you're always going to be able to get the second effect off. So that's why the number does seem quite low, 120, because you're always going to have the follow-up attack dealing an extra 160% of his attack. Following that, if you then have 1 Predation Beam, which again you can get by activating his Pounce modes, or his Panther dash state, but also if you do activate his second stage combat skill, the turnaround strike, you also do automatically gain 1 Predation Beam. So from the looks of it, once you activate the second stage technique effect, the turnaround strike, you can instantly activate his second sub-skill, in this case, consuming 1 Predation Beam, but only actually after you cast Rising Dragon, so you do need to be in your Panther state. But actually, to be fair, again, once you activate your Panther state and then you do your, additional attack, the Rising Dragon, you do gain 1 Predation Beam. So I guess once you do your second basic attack, special attack, they might call it, right, you then get to instantly activate his second skill, where in this case, Grimmjow instantly moves to the target and unleashes a series of rapid blade slashes, dealing a total of 160% of his attack power. Now, keep in mind, the numbers are relatively low. They are definitely going to change in the release of the character, but this is also based on level 1. So the numbers are kind of similar to characters like, Ichigo, Gin, for example. Nothing out of the ordinary here. But with that, Grimmjow also then does have 3 different techniques. So in this case, you have Great Star Form. Consumes 2 Predation Beans, and you want to press the technique skill after casting Demon Slash. So this will be after his second technique effect. So I think to get the most out of this character, if you want to get the full combo, you want to have 3 Predation Beans. So you need to be in the Panther state, you need to activate the Rising Dragon. You'll then consume 1 Predation Bean to activate the 3000 Worlds Demon Slash. And then after using 2 Predation Beans, you can then activate the Asura Great Starfall. So he seems to be a combo character, which is going to be unique to what we have seen compared to other characters in the game, where you basically just get to spam a lot of basic attacks, skills, specifically techniques. In this case, Grimmjow instantly ascends into the air and crashing down on the target with tremendous force, dealing 160% of Grimmjow's attack. So I'm liking what I am seeing right now. It might be a bit confusing. I don't think it will be. From the looks of it, you want to build up spiritual pressure, activate his Panther form, gain those Predation Beans, and then when you have at least 3, you can do the full skill technique combo where you get to press the button multiple times. And that's probably going to be the main way he is dealing damage. So compared to other characters in the game, Grimmjow right now seems to be a technique damage dealer. Similar to Gin, to be fair, that's one of the main ways Gin does deal damage, but Gin also has the added effect of being able to, inflict impel scale. From the looks of it, with Grimmjow, it's just strictly technique damage. After that, though, we do have his ultimate, the Panther King's Claw. So there should be no surprise here that his ultimate is going to be Desgaron, which I'm pretty sure does translate into Panther's King Claw. So this relatively checks out. In this case, releases all of his energy and immediately delivers a powerful strike to the target, dealing 1,480% of his attack. Again, for comparison's sake, let's have a look at Toshiro. His ultimate is 1,100. So Grimmjow's does seem to be a little higher, but at the same time, Toshiro does have multiple ways to boost his ultimate damage, because his ultimate damage is a big part about Toshiro. Nothing right now that I've seen technically increases Grimmjow's ultimate damage output. Again, you're more so looking at his technique damage here being increased by 75%. But I guess his first passive will increase his ultimate damage. But I'm thinking this is more so going to be very similar to Gin in the sense that it's going to deal some good damage, probably around 1 million plus, but it's not going to be the main way he is going to deal damage. Other than that, though, Grimmjow as a counter does actually give him 50 spiritual pressure, which is actually pretty decent. Would have liked if he gained the Predation Beam from that, but I guess the whole idea is that you do want to activate the Panther state, so that's actually pretty good. And also makes me question, do we want to use Grimmjow with Aizen? Because if the main way this character is going to, in a way, start off any type of combo, from the basic attacks, special attacks, or techniques, is all about getting into that Panther state where you need to consume 50 spiritual pressure. Nice that it is 50. That way you can build up his spiritual pressure bar to 100, activate the Panther state, do your big combo where you get to use like 3 techniques back to back potentially, and then you get to instantly activate his Panther state again, right when that combo does end. But remember, with Aizen, he does let you, automatically trigger his counter effect after you do use Hado 90. So Grimmjow might be a good character to use alongside Aizen. Then again, Aizen is a great character for everyone. His flash step is going to be Sonido. That's going to be kind of cool just to hear the sound effects in game. And for the most part, it doesn't do anything different. It would have been cool, though, if his flash step was actually somewhat different, in the sense that it does give a different effect. I mean, this can be, unique to other characters in the future, right? But every character, for the most part, gets a 50% attack speed and a movement speed for 4 seconds. This isn't unique to Grimmjow, but it would have been cool if every character, based on when they, trigger an extreme dodge, where if you're a Soriba, you get 1 effect, if you're an Espada, you get 1 effect, if you're a Fullbringer or Quincy in the future, you get another effect. That would be kind of cool, but at least they can have unique animations to them, Flash Stepping or Sonido, and I believe Quincy's also have their own one. So this is pretty much Grimmjow in a nutshell. Right now, I am liking what I am seeing. He seems to be a very aggressive and fast character, and a simple character that too. I don't think he's that complicated. And while on that, we also have more information regarding Grimmjow's weapon stamp. In this case, while Grimmjow is in the Panther Dash state, he rapidly charges power, reaching its maximum after 2.5 seconds. Releasing his basic attack button at this point will cast an Enhanced Pounce. Casting a combat skill or triggering extreme dodge also allows Enhanced Pounce to be cast immediately. After casting Enhanced Pounce, Grimmjow gains 10% more crit rate and 15% more abnormal damage bonus for 15 seconds. So good crit rate bonus, more damage overall for the abnormal damage, which is kind of cool, I guess. But for the most part, this seems to be an extra attack that you can deal. And when Enhanced Pounce deals damage, it immediately applies 1 instance of Rend abnormal damage. And lastly, for every 1% crit rate, Grimmjow's combat skill, in this case again technique damage, is increased by 1.5% upwards to a maximum of 90%. That is absolutely insane for a weapon stamp. Definitely going to be a must-have for this character, as it does potentially allow for an additional effect, additional attack. But most importantly, like already stated, it's going to increase the damage output by quite a lot, upwards to potentially 90% technique damage. On top of, if the numbers stay the same, 75% here is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So Grimmjow is looking absolutely insane right now. Again, some things might change before the character does release. If we do get any updates, we will cover it on the channel. And we also will talk about it when we do get gameplay for this character. Because right now, based on the kit, I'm liking what I'm seeing. So I really want to see what his visuals are going to be like. Because right now, he seems to be quite the flashy character. And also, as an Espada fan, I'm excited to see Espadas in-game. So it kind of is a shame that he might not be the next character releasing in the game. Because for me, all eyes are on him. So the next character, by comparison, might not be as cool. But if it is Kenpachi, I'm down for some Kenpachi action. And again, we should get that confirmed in a few days' time. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about Grimmjow. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys next time. Take care and peace.